Are talking about a potential contract, but they're reportedly no closer to coming to an agreement. Bengals vets report to training camp a week from next Tuesday. Very likely Hendrickson will not be there unless they get a deal done. So we're still wondering if Hendrickson could be traded, which leads us to a segment we're calling Overreaction or Reality. Danny Cannell is back. Overreaction or reality, Danny? The Bengals will have to trade Trey.
I think that is an overreaction. I think they get a deal done because of what he means to that defense. It was the one bright spot on a defense which was otherwise not very good. And I know they want to keep Joe Burrow happy, and that was the reason they prioritized Jamar Chase and T. Higgins getting their deals done this season, and those players are happy. But I don't know about you, Chris. I watched the Netflix quarterback series with Joe Burrow, and he is not a happy camper. And he had a phenomenal season, but he wants to win. And I'm sure he's in there trying as much as he can do to campaign to say, hey, we need one of our best defensive players on this roster taken care of and keep him happy just as much as we need our key offensive figures happy as well. I think they get it done. I think this could get contentious. I don't think he's there at the start of training camp. I think it could carry on into camp and maybe even get close to regular season, but it's only July 9th. A lot of this is posturing, trying to take a stance and play hardball. But ultimately, I think the Cincinnati Bengals will realize what they have on that defensive side of the ball, and it's not easy to go out and find a replacement for that. So I think they'll get it done.
He's not the only great pass rusher that's looking for a new deal. Micah Parsons heading into the final year of his deal with the Cowboys. Overreaction or reality? Micah Parsons won't suit up for the Cowboys week 1.
I think that's an overreaction. I think Micah Parsons wants to play, and I think at some point when it gets time, the rubber hits the road, I think you'll see both sides come to their senses, and you'll say, all right, we want to make sure that this one, and like Trey Hendrickson, this is a player that's one of the best young defensive players on the league, and Micah Parsons has made it clear he wants to be a Cowboy. I mean, shoot, he even put it out there that maybe he possibly would take less if there was that trade potential for a Myles Garrett, a player like that. While that didn't come to fruition, I love the mindset of Micah Parsons. I think he's a player who wouldn't hold out through a game if he had to. If it takes away from his playing time, I think that's where he draws the line and goes to his team and says, you know what, I want to get this deal done. I don't care what happens. I want to be on the field with my teammates. And I also think Jerry Jones and the front office there with Dallas, they realize the start to the season is so integral. They want to get off on the right foot. They've got a healthy Dak Prescott now. What can be at stake? You don't want to be without your best player early. So ultimately, I think he's on the field week 1.
Being left behind in that division, they just watched half of their division go where they haven't gone in 30 years to the NFC Championship game with the Eagles facing the Commanders. But Washington has an issue on their own in Terry McLaurin, who wants to be paid like the All-Pro he has been, and he might be holding out for more money as well. So overreaction or reality, McLaurin will get what he wants, which is $32+ million and be a top 5 paid wide receiver this season.
I do. I think this is a reality. I think Terry McLaurin is one of the most underrated receivers in the entire league. And it was good to see him last year finally paired with Jayden Daniels. And you saw him once again because he's been one of the more consistent producers at that position. I don't think he's in the discussion for a top 3 wide receiver in the league. So I don't think he breaks the bank and sets a new record. But that $32 million mark is around where I see him. And if you see some of those other players, A.J. Brown right there, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brandon Ayuk, Tyreek Hill, I think is a better wide receiver, but his contract was redone a couple years ago. A lot of times the latest guy kind of sets the tempo, it sets the tone, and gets into that top 5 market. So I do think Washington, they have already made it clear they're sparing no expense. They've been the trade market, they've been active, trying to help Jayden Daniels. They want to make sure Terry McLaurin is there. I think he's got some pretty good leverage, so I think he sneaks into that top 5 highest paid wide receiver range.
Reports, though, that McLaurin is unhappy right now with the way things are moving, or maybe not moving right now in the direction that he wants. Let's get to some quarterback battles now, beginning in Indianapolis. Overreaction or reality? Daniel Jones will beat out Anthony Richardson for the starting job.
That is a reality to me. I am not sold on Anthony Richardson. I thought this was a great spot for Daniel Jones to go, especially if he didn't want to just all of a sudden post New York Giants career, be resigned to just being a backup. I think he wants to be a starter, and I think he'll be more prepared and ready to go and be a more consistent player that you can rely on that the Colts haven't been able to trust Anthony Richardson. I thought this was one of the biggest risk picks coming out of that draft class, and it hasn't paid dividends yet. The accuracy concerns that he had coming out of college haven't been alleviated, and even more worrisome, he has not been able to stay healthy. Daniel Jones, I think it's been great for him to kind of have a little respite. Now that he's found a new place, I think Shane Steichen will find a way to use him, and I think the consistency that he brings to the table, and he's a really good quarterback. I know he was tossed aside by the New York Giants. He was, his offensive line was mired with injuries. Was Saquon healthy half the time? It seemed like he didn't get great situations. It's a really tough market to play in. I think Indianapolis will ride with Daniel Jones come week 1.
Speaking of tossed aside, Kenny Pickett was tossed aside by the Pittsburgh Steelers, who took him in the first round. He was the #1 quarterback drafted just a few years ago. Overreaction or reality? Kenny Pickett is going to beat out the former Super Bowl MVP and the 2 rookies on that team for the starting job.
I think that's an overreaction that he starts for them week 1. I think this is Joe Flacco's job. I don't think he'll have a problem beating out Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel, so I think he'll be resigned to a backup role. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him play at some point, but Kevin Stefanski knows and trusts Joe Flacco, and at 40 years old, I know he seems ancient, but he's still going to deliver and trust somebody you can trust with the offense. We so many times think that players hop around and it's easy to pick up an NFL offense. It is not. You have to learn the new language, the new lingo, and the ability to make checks at the line of scrimmage. It's so intricate, the deals and the systems that you're running. Joe Flacco knows better how to handle it. I think Kevin Stefanski, once the rubber hits the road and it's time to go, I think he'll go with the guy that he trusts the most. Again, I think it'll be a pretty short leash. I think they'll see if he can kind of guide them, be more of that game manager type. But I keep reading about Kenny Pickett, how he's all of a sudden found revival from the year he spent in Philly. He didn't play that much. It's not like he was all of a sudden out there lighting it up. He was in a backup role, and I'm happy for him that he's found another opportunity, and I do think maybe he sees the field at some point, but I'm not sold that he's going to be the guy that Kevin Stefanski trusts week 1 to say, all right, you're our guy, you're the one we're going to trust to lead us to the playoffs.
Have one more overreaction or reality with Danny Cannell. It's about Tyreek Hill. Overreaction or reality? Tyreek Hill won't be a Dolphin come week 1.
That's an overreaction. I know there's been a lot of speculation about Tyreek Hill. Even he has, had some comments that have kind of been contradictory over the past, off season. How happy is he? I think he likes playing in South Florida. I know there's some question marks about his belief in Tua. I still think that's a quarterback that can get him the ball when he's healthy. He plays in a system that's very creative, that they're going to be able to use him in different ways. I think he ultimately is on the Miami Dolphins come week 1. I don't think he's going to get moved, and I think he's going to, again, put up pretty good numbers.
We'll continue the Miami Dolphins talk on the other side of this quick timeout. The culture there is being questioned and has been questioned several times. Danny Cannell, as we kick off conference media days around the country. We've got the Big Ten in a couple of weeks. You're going to be out there. Got the SEC next week. Right now, it's the Big 12 taking center stage, and Coach Prime taking center stage today. Does it feel like, Danny, that they're a little bit under the radar here as we go into this season compared to Coach Prime's first 2 years there?
Without question.
One of the reasons is that Shedeur is not one of the quarterbacks.
Exactly. And no Travis Hunter, one of the best players in the country, no longer there either. Also, there's been some concerns about Coach Prime's health. He hasn't been in Boulder. He's been taking care of some things. So they've been very much under the radar, quiet, and I think it's by design as well, because I don't know what to expect from this team. So I don't think you're going to hear Coach Prime with as many bold proclamations as he's had the last couple of years.
Well, he was asked about his health today, and he said he was not there to talk about it, that he wanted to talk about his team, and we'll discuss the quarterback battle in just a little bit. But first, here's Coach Prime in Frisco, Texas, where the Cowboys practice, saying that he wants to end up down the road at Jerry World for the Big 12 championship game this year, where they just lost out on that a season ago in a 4-way tie for first.
We want to win. We want to win at all costs. We want to be in that championship game, not here at the Star, but over in that other big house that Jerry's built. That's what we want to do, and that's what we're gearing up for. That's all we're playing for. We play to win. We don't just play to compete.
And if he truly believes that and his team truly believes that, they might be the only ones, because they don't have a preseason poll in the Big 12 anymore. But if they did, It would be surprising to see Colorado picked even in the top 10 among the 16 teams, Danny.
No doubt. They've lost so much talent off this team. Not only Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, but a wealth of production on the offensive side of the ball at the wide receiver position and the running back position. So there is a large amount of questions around this Colorado squad. And it's also the first time that Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, has been without his son Shedeur. He coached him at Pee Wee football. He coached him in high school. Then when he was in college at Jackson State, coached him there, and then had him when he was at Colorado. So there's always been that stability of, you know exactly what you're going to get in the quarterback. And you got great play from Shedeur Sanders. That has been a luxury for Coach Prime that all of a sudden he's going to be without. And there's massive question marks at the quarterback position, the most important position on the field. And they had one of the best passing offenses in the country. Now there's a big question mark there. I think that's going to be the biggest hurdle that Coach Prime has to overcome.
Yeah, will it be the 17-year-old or will it be the veteran? Caden Salter from Liberty in his final year of eligibility. They went in the transfer portal. They paid for him, but they also have Lewis, who is a close to a 5-star, borderline 4 or 5-star quarterback, but he's only 17 years old. This is what Coach Prime said about the quarterback situation today.
We brought both of them because I don't know which one's going to start.
My question to you is, would you be comfortable with a situation where both guys play?
Yeah. As long as they're doing their jobs and we winning, we definitely want to continue to develop Juju, but Caden is unbelievable. Caden's off the chain. He's been there, done that. He can get the job done. I wouldn't have brought him here if I didn't trust him. But Juju is coming around the mountain when he comes. And I love him. I love what he brings to the table. I don't know how it's going to play out, as long as it plays out. We can't lose either way.
So Juju, the nickname for Julian Lewis, has a little bit of Shedeur in him.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Just why? Why do you want to set that standard for yourself? Like, be your own person. Like, he's taking the celebration, the watch. I don't even know. Is there a nickname for, like, what Shedeur did with the watch? Like, the watch thing? I don't know what it's called.
It's just the watch thing.
Yeah, it's just the watch thing. Be your own guy. And I think he's incredibly talented. But I think ultimately when it comes down to, I think you'll see both quarterbacks on the field for Colorado this season. Maybe in week 1 at the same time. You might see them split series. And I think it's a testament to Coach Prime that he brought both of them. He said, I don't know who's going to start. If there's that much indecision, a lot of times if there's no differential in practice, when you would ideally hope to see someone develop as a clear-cut starter, you're going to roll with them in the regular season to see who performs best under the bright lights and who performs best in the system that you want to run. There is one thing I know for sure about Colorado. This offense is going to look completely different. They were so pass-heavy last year. They had the worst rushing offense in the entire landscape of college football. That is going to change. I actually talked to Marshall Falk, who's their new running backs coach there, and he's, I was talking to him about the offense, who's going to play quarterback, and he's like, I'm not sure, but I guarantee you one thing, we are going to be committed to the run game. And Coach Prime is right. Caden Salter is a guy at the quarterback position. Had a little bit of a step back last year at Liberty, but 2 years ago led him to an undefeated season, put up big numbers, and he's a dynamic runner. So I could see him adding the running element to that offense and then sprinkling in some Julian Lewis to kind of see what he's capable of, let him be that kind of passing quarterback. But they're going to go with 2 guys until they figure out the one. I just think it's so interesting, the difference. And Coach Prime openly admitting, I don't know who my guy is. Do you remember when he introduced himself to the Colorado boosters and his team? And he said, I got my quarterback with me. Shedeur Sanders had not taken a snap at the FBS level. He had only played at the FCS. Unequivocally their starter. This is yet another dynamic that Coach Prime will have to navigate in this uncharted waters post Shedeur Sanders, post coaching his son. How do you handle that quarterback room? Because it's not always easy. You can see factions and it start to form in the locker room, who the team thinks is better. Today's landscape, you've got to keep players happy or else they'll transfer. It's going to be really interesting to see how he handles this quarterback room.
You cover up a lot of issues with a quarterback as good as Shedeur Sanders was, and the top talent in all of college football, Travis Hunter, playing every snap on both sides of the ball, some special teams as well. But now they're both gone. What else outside the quarterback position do you have questions about?
Everything. I mean, this was not a great defense last year. I mean, they've got to, show up and go ready to play. It was kind of an embarrassing performance that they had about BYU. But the one thing they have majored in is the transfer portal, and they have not been shy about it. But the thing that concerns me, and you've seen this at a bunch of different schools, including at Florida State, my alma mater, when you major in the transfer portal, it just can be incredibly volatile. Coach Prime's first year at Colorado kind of fell off the rails. It didn't quite work. Last year, it worked great. And then you're kind of back to the drawing board with an entire new roster and a lot of turnover out there. So once again, they have one of the better portal classes in the entire